So I want to talk a little bit more about art. I apologize for going so far off topic and bringing up race, but
It's in the art that we do. Both of us,
and stupidly enough, again, like I said this to you off the recording, but you were my first non-white interviewees. So like,
we your first black. Say it.
I was trying. Well, but there are other races, and I haven't had any of those races.
Oh, yeah,
so you're my first non-white. Like, so it's not even. I haven't had any Asians or any other ethnicities yet.
Okay.
Because I've only been in Prague up till now, and this is literally my first time getting out of Prague. And then from here, I'm going to move on to other cities. The plan is Paris and Amsterdam and London, and hopefully I'm going to get some grants to go to like Norway and Finland and these kinds of places over time.
That's wonderful. Yeah.
So I mean, the idea is to just keep traveling around and just keep hearing stories of people's lives and people's experiences in the arts, and the database, the knowledge base of the podcast will just grow and grow and grow. That's the plan.
Well, thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for being here. It's great.
On the 5th floor.
Are you thinking it's over?
No. I'm just saying thank you for having us. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'm happy to have you. Well, your gallery rep, sent you to me, actually.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They work hard.
Yeah.
They work hard.
You're the young, so let's go all the way back to where we were with, you're just coming out of school, you all are very young, you all have this very different sort of perspective on your future, and you're having to sort of rely a lot more on grants and residencies and all these kinds of things. And so like one big thing, let's try and do them like sort of one by one, like little things. Writing artist statements. I fucking hate it.
I used to hate it.
Yeah, tell me about it. Like, because I mean, honestly, Rohan, you're in a residency.
Yeah.
You are in an international art fair. Kevin, trying to make sure to use your names. So, like, you're obviously doing something right.
I guess so. I guess so. And I think the artist statement is always, in many ways. I mean, obviously, the art is your calling card, but the artist statement, being able to write well. And being able to write well about yourself is an art in itself, right?
Absolutely.
And it's like, I think
I
don't know
fail miserably at it. That's why I'm looking to you, saying like, so what's your way of approaching writing an artist statement? What do you try? What do you think are the characteristics of a good, strong artist statement?
I mean, I think it comes back to that the same piece of advice you were giving to your Muslim women students, right, is to write about yourself and to really unpack what that means in your work or like through your work, and to make links between where you are and where you're situated with what your work is trying to say. Like that for me is like the mark of a good artist statement, or even just the mark of a good practice. And then the artist statement is just a way of synthesizing that practice into words. So if you know what your work is and you know your position within that work, it's like it's becoming one of the anchors in that set of coordinates, and writing into those coordinates.
Okay, how do you get to that understanding? Did you go to therapy? Do you what do you do? Like
you spent 2 years in grad school just so you can write an artist statement.
Trauma therapy is what it's called. I went in it really technical because I used to think I was a bad writer before I did my grad applications, and I had a person tell me you should write that thing as if you believe you're infallible, and see how that goes. Since you just see how it goes. And I thought that was a really interesting piece of advice. So I wrote it like I knew everything I was talking about, right? Okay. And I was like, actually, yeah, the goal would be you would know, or at least you know when you don't know. So a good example is when I used to teach people about artist statements. when I was TAing and stuff.
I was going to say, wait a minute. You were teaching people how to write artist statements?
Yeah, I've done that. I used to be a high school kind of teacher for. I taught in high school, but only for 1 year.
Wait a minute. People were writing artist statements in high school?
Yeah,
I didn't write artist statements in high school, and I was an art student.
It depends on your teacher. I thought it was important.
Okay.
Just to be introduced
my teacher
to
did
it.
not think it was important, obviously.
Basically, I always was like, okay, you can't start with my work, XYZ. Some people do.
Okay, well, let's go down to like that little minutia of that. Using I, me, and my. Good way to go? Or like, do you write it as a third person thing, like about the artist as a third person, or about sort of yourself using I, me, and my?
I think you just better be damn good if you're gonna really write my work as the first thing you say. Because my first artist statement, I probably still have it on there because I like this intro, but I used to write that I always found poetry in objects that convey multiple histories. So
It's a good phrase.
That's your first line?
That's my first
It's a good phrase.
Because then it tries to situate you in this space where it's like, okay, I'm telling you right now, I find a specific kind of ephemera or poetic response to objects, and because of what they do. Objects because of what they do. Not because my work just does this. It's like, this is why I do this.
Well, but you've also set up that you're also well informed about history also, because you've mentioned that the objects need to have a history, so therefore you, by producing art about objects with a history, is sort of expressing that you have a mastery of that knowledge also. So it's a very nice statement to begin with, because it sets up a set of things that make me think you are very knowledgeable on like 3 different levels in one phrase.
And and if you say my work is XYZ, it might not do that.
Yeah, that feels kind of...
I would never do that. When I was in I don't even know what school I was in, but I was at some school, and some teacher told us to start off with a Latin phrase is always a good way to start off.
A Latin phrase.
Yeah.
Like literally a Latin
phrase that, like, basically it's like quote somebody else was the idea to start off. So like I remember writing them with like quoting, Nietzsche and Kant and Freud. I mean, it was the most pompous, arrogant crap you've ever read in your life. And I was embarrassed to have written it, but that's what my teachers were telling me at the time was the right way to do it.
And these things always change as well, right? I mean, and that's why you're asking us, because here we are, and it's a different thing.
You are the contemporary generation, and so I'm sort of wanting to hear what's going on. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually do portfolio reviews online for lensculture.com. Like, it's all photographers.
Yeah.
And I'm reading artist statements every day, and they are horrible. The most people who write artist statements are just atrocious at it. And all I keep trying to tell them is that be very specific. Details tell the story. Be very personal. Be very vulnerable. Be very intimate. If you can sort of entice out of the statement the idea of why somebody made the work, then it's been successful. Like that's what I want to know. When I read an artist statement, I feel like I want to read, why did they make this? I don't want to hear a technical, like how they made it. I don't even care about necessarily their inspirations, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm inspired by so-and-so's past works, kind of stuff. Like, I don't care about that, because I don't want to feel like one thing that a lot of people do when they do artist statements that I read a lot is they actually quote really famous people, and then if I don't know those famous people, I feel like an idiot while I'm reading it. And I don't want to look at art where the artist is making me feel stupid, but that might be my issue.
It could be, but I think no. But I mean, I think that's it's a really valid point. And Latoya, so I TA'd for Latoya Ruby Fraser, who's an incredible photographer. At the beginning of this year, and she was teaching advanced photography to undergraduates, and we spent a lot of time talking about or thinking about the artist statement.
Well, they're very important these days. Like, they've become very important
because of having to write grants and having to go to residencies, and that being the way that you get into the art world and quote unquote,
So you write your own artist statements, both of you. You don't hire curators. You don't hire outside writers to help you.
nah.
Grassroots. I didn't even know people did that.
I guess you can.
They do here in Europe.
I mean, I guess it's wow. I mean, but then it goes back to the thing. I mean, if you're a bad writer, then yeah, shit. Get someone else to write that. You know what I mean? Like, you need to get in the door. And then, like that's a way in the door. Then there's those people who probably don't need an artist statement because the work. I don't know. I was gonna say, if your work is good enough, does it even matter what your artist statement says?
I think so.
You think so?
I think so. And I'll tell you what I think so.
Yeah, no, you're right. It does.
But just it's not even gonna be a tangent. I think it matters because at the end of the day, it's like there's always gonna be like the parts of the work that you can't understand if it's strong work. Yeah. I think that there's always an air of mystery, and people want a little bit of view into it without it the work being as blatantly didactic, right? Yeah. And it's I think the artist statement is the in between.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right, and it frames it. I mean, it frames it. It creates a history for it. It creates a space that you can also start to draw linkages between it and other pieces of work. And if you don't have that, then it's just a free flowing signifier.
Yeah, I like using the word context. Like it gives context to the work. Yeah. Sort of fleshes out the world of the artwork in some way. Yeah. That's my vocabulary for it.
But then that's it. That's all you need to do then is give that context.
Yeah.
Like that's as simple as you don't need to do no other stuff. It's just give the context.
That's real.
And say why. Why this context? And why do you have a relationship to that context?
But that's so hard to do. I mean, personally, I remember when I made my master's thesis. It was this book, and I had all these little pompous, arrogant ideas of like why I did this and that, and I was like, ooh, I used the special mediums for this and whatever. But 15 years later, I can now look back at that and I go, yeah, everything I said about what I was doing, that was a bunch of bullshit. Like what I was really doing was this. And it was, I was fooling myself. Like I was in school and I was being forced under a time pressure and a grade pressure to come up with something. And I came up with something, and at the time it sounded totally legit. In hindsight, 15 years later, I look back at it and I'm like, that's the biggest bunch of pompous bullshit I've ever written. Yeah. But it worked, but it wasn't truthful.
Yeah, I'll speak to it real fast. We had these junior reviews at CCA, and anyone can attest to it who went to my undergrad. If you failed the junior review, you had to redo your junior year on your own pocket if you was on some scholarships too. And so the funny thing is like it was high stakes. A lot of people, and the graphic designers definitely had to redo their year if they screwed up. Because I know somebody who did. She's cool. She's all right.
I know somebody in our grad program at San Francisco Art Institute that we do like after year one they do a review. Yeah. And if they don't think you're worthy, you have to repeat year one. And they actually did that to one of our students, and we were all like, "Oh my god,
that's rough." I mean, it's gonna make you be on point, but it is rough. And I'll tell you, I was stressing out really badly, but I couldn't write an artist statement. And then I just decided, I said, and this was goofy back then, but I said, I'm gonna make this artist statement riddled with like intellectual colloquialisms. This is what I said to myself. I said, because I want there to be a certain level of ambiguity here so that they can create what they want to create out of it. It has to mention the actual thing I'm doing at some point. It has to say, I did this on this medium, like use this medium on this thing, this substrate, and then say, and leave a room like asking a question. I just said, I'm going to do that. And
you ask questions in a statement?
I did, and I got an award for it. That's why I'm saying I got money. What? I got money for that. I didn't just pass. I got cash handed to me.
For your statement.
For my statement.
With a question in it.
With a question.
Which to me is horribly ironic. Like, I hate when a statement has a question. Like, that. Those are opposing positions. You can't put a question in a statement.
But that's art, though, isn't it?
Really?
Maybe you make the statement an extension of your artistic practice. I mean, there are people that definitely do that, right?
Now you're just bullshitting. but you're having fun doing it, and it sounds good while you're saying it.
That's half
I
the
think
battle.
it's the British accent, though.
That's always.
I'm sure that helps.
That's why I went to America.
All right. Okay. So artist statements, we got that sort of under our belt. Your experiences with those. So grants. Have either of you applied and or received grants?
Yeah, I forgot. 4.
4. You're 26 years old and you got 4 grants.
Yeah, but this is time span between ages 19 to now.
Okay, just here. Let me just be really clear on that. I'm 46 years old and I've received 1 grant,
Oh, okay, cool.
and that was just because I knew the people on the judging panel.
Hey, I knew a couple. I mean, well, that's great. Yeah, I mean,
No, it's not great. I'm horrible at this. This is so like, but also again, I think this is partly a generational thing, and I think this is why this conversation about the contemporary art world is very different than. Because here, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm of the age where I should and could be your professor at art school.
Yeah,
and theoretically, I would be teaching you the things that I knew before I started this podcast, which since starting this podcast, I have realized are completely wrong.
great. At least you know it. At least you know it.
I know. I want to cry, though.
Well, that's quite scary as well, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is like most of the professors in academia right now who are theoretically your professors are of my generation or older than me. And they are completely out of touch with the reality that you're living.
Mm-hmm. We know that too. Yeah. I mean, we know a large group of people who come through those spaces. Like, I think that there's a reality we understand about that, like, people need work, right? Some people see when people get in that nice teaching gig, sometimes they're there for 20 years if they can be longer.
Yeah.
We understand that this is more so their reality now. And I think that people seek those who are usually the most active, and they're the hardest to get a hold of, right? So there's this weird romanticization happening in art school. Like, maybe it's always been there.
It has.
I know that this system's kind of working against me, but in a way, I'm hoping I'm about to be that lucky one. And that's how the lotto works. It's literally like the lotto. It's like I'm going to be the one who strikes, even though I know 90% of this isn't supposed to work out. You know, I think that's the logic behind it.
90%. You're being generous. It's like 99%. 99.9% don't work out.
You mean in terms of making it in the art world or making it as a professor? Or all of that?
Art world.
For us, both, I think.
Yeah, well, these days, I think like the opportunities to be a professor, I think, are minimal for you all. Like,
Adjunct, right? I mean,
well, yeah,
adjunct,
yes,
but to be tenured,
tons of adjunct work. But I'm saying like a secure job, a full-time job, benefits, the whole thing.
Yeah, not unless you're like big name.
Unless you graduated from Yale master's program.
You would think. I mean, I got a couple homies that they're struggling even though they came through there.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
because there's a falsehood to this.
I was going to say, like, when I'm thinking of Yale, I'm thinking 20, 25 years ago. I'm thinking like Matthew Barney era kind of.
They're still doing their thing.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got to give them respect, but it's like, it's just not going to be everybody, no matter where it is.
It's true.
And that's 25 people that go through there every year. We're about the same, but SAIC and Columbia's like 10 when you talk about the painting department, or I think, but either way, what I'm getting at is like, it's just never going to be everybody.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think we inherently know, but people still go, but I'm going to be that one. You know, you won't have the gumption. If you're gonna spend that much money, you still think
You have to believe that you're going to
somewhere in the back of your mind, like, I'm going to be that one though. I'm going to make it. No problem. Even if you're not, you still think it. No way you gave these people your money to think I'm going to be mediocre and jobless the rest of my life. There's no way.
But
You're making
while
me feel
we're
really
saying
bad.
that, while saying that, the thing that is also really important to understand, and this again, I feel like I got so much knowledge from Latoya. She just like spent most of the class dropping knowledge.
Yeah.
The art market, and maybe she's wrong, but according to Latoya, the art market is the 3rd largest market in the world. So it's arms, it's pharmaceuticals, and then it's the art market.
That's great.
So when you
Good for us.
No, but literally, and so it's easy. So on the one hand, it's easy to be like, not everyone's gonna make it, and like that's part of a mythos around like the celebra, the artist celebra of like. But there's also, when there's that much money involved in the art world, because like rich people want to hide their money and not pay taxes.
Yeah.
Then there's also a lot of opportunities to, okay, yeah, not everybody's going to be your David Hammond, not everybody's going to be, the next massive name, but there's plenty of opportunity to make a living as an artist.
Okay, but I'll give you a caveat on that. Most of the massive, like I would say probably 75% of the money that you just discussed is in the secondary market, and it doesn't actually go to the artist.
Yeah. That's
clever
true.
point.
Yeah.
That's a clever point because I think that like I knew I was talking with this guy. He rents studios out of the Bay Area, so he has a bunch of property, and he makes money off of just renting it to artists. And he got in on the ground floor with a piece from an artist that he was able to flip for a lot of money. But it's just like when me and Rohan was just talking about this afternoon. He met that person in their studio and paid them like $5,000. And to them, that was like a grant. Mm-hmm. That was like, whoa, I just got $5,000 in my hand.
That's like a year's rent. It's fabulous.
Yeah, they were excited. And then they were like, but now this person, $5K ain't nothing to what they make.
Yeah.
They do okay. They've actually done well and made good in their career. But now it's like that person flipped that like for a lot of money, and they didn't get that straight up. So, yeah, I can see that. There's a lot of aftermarket.
A lot of aftermarket. But and then that's about how well you can control the market for your work as well. But the reason I said that is not to say, oh, all of that money is going to artists, but I think it's important to recognize because we can all as artists play into the myth of the starving artist. Like that's how you do it. You starve for as long as possible, or not for as long, but you starve and then you make it, or you don't. But if you recognize the fact that there are these economies around it, you can also start to understand, as is the point of this podcast, how it all works, and therefore how to be in it, not blindly.
I have the biggest issue, and I'm getting more and more angry about this term starving artist the more I'm doing this podcast, because have you ever heard of a starving banker? Have you ever heard of a starving dentist or a starving doctor? Why should artists be starving?
Well, I mean, even though you could argue for it, people find a physical need for those things. Like, people fight tooth and nail to get a job to say I can have dental. They don't fight tooth and nail to say I need to make sure I can put my money into art. You know, it's a different level of care around the idea of what we think is essential versus not.
No, that's fine. I'll go with that. Starving architect. Starving.
Need a place to live.
Here, wait. Starving stripper. Okay.
They be starving. Hold on. Don't think they out here. Everybody's, They be
Not the strippers I knew.
They were
what was
this,
well
off.
Very well off.
It's a whole different game.
Washington D.C. Okay. Very well off.
Oh
strippers, yes.
But yeah, that is this thing of the starving artist. Like what? Also, the other thing I think that we need to be honest about, and again, I can't speak for all of my peers' financial situation, and I wouldn't want to actually, because that would be ingenuine of me. But I think also a lot of people who do go to grad school have. And I think now, I don't think that's always been the case, but I think there are a lot of people at grad school, at least certainly the most elite grad schools, who can afford that. So there are a lot, because of the way that the art market is currently structured, I think that there are a lot of people who are making art and then who maybe get gallery representation, who have the means to do so as well. So like, and again, I can't say that with like, I don't know the art world well enough to like make that as a blanket statement, but I do think that there are the way that the art market also is going, or the way that the art school, the amount of money people have to pay to go to art school, there might be an argument to be made that it also is creating a very particular type of person that can afford to be an artist.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one of my exes, she was very honest with me about like, how does your family feel about that you've chosen this career if you don't come from? And she wasn't American, she was keeping it, completely honest when she was saying that, like, you guys are kind of, subjugated and put at the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, in a lot of ways. So you being like a black man in America, a lot of doors inherently close on you. So
And then on top of that, you're an artist,
Yeah.
which even more doors are closed on you.
right, and so the thing is, my answer to that, my answer usually always is like, I don't want to fail at something I know I'm going to inherently be mediocre at. I'd rather fail at something that I at least think I have a good shot at doing well. There's a lot of people out there that could be a lot of things. I'm not the cat that could have just been a doctor, but I chose to be an artist. And there are plenty of people like this. I'm not that. I'm just, okay, if I make it in art, great. If I don't, I was going to be doing something else that was probably not as great anyway. So I'm totally comfortable with like that do or die thing around art because of that fact. But I think it's a very fair question to ask.
Moving back to grants and residencies. How about residencies? So Rohan, you are currently on a residency here in Berlin.
In Berlin, yeah.
And Kevin, have you done any residencies?
Yeah, I've done over 5.
What?
Kevin's the man.
Nah,
You didn't
don't.
already know. Kevin's the
Do
man.
not frame me like that. Can you imagine some of these
Can
people
I
out here? If I'm the man,
can I hire you to like write my application or something?
please. If I'm the man, you see some of these monsters out here, these art monsters, doing everything.
I don't even know what to say. I mean, I'm 46 years old and I've had one residency, which I didn't even apply for. It was actually an award. So I've gotten 0. But in all honesty, I've probably only applied for 2 or 3. Residencies are this great enigma for me. Like I'm absolutely fascinated by them. I think they sound magical, like a unicorn running over a rainbow. To me, like they're just this fantastical thing. So tell me, give me some experiences.
Well, I was going to say Rohan should speak to his because he beat out almost the entire school to get his. Only like 1 to 2 people get the residency he gets, and almost everybody in the fine arts department applies for this residency. I applied for that residency. I didn't get it. So people should know these things before you call somebody the man.
But so I think what's fascinating about residency is how different they all can be. There are some that are. I'll speak to mine. Is that I think what is beautiful about the residency that I've been awarded in Berlin is like it gives me time and space and a studio and I realized exactly that's all we want. Like I just realized what it is all for. Like it really is about having time and space. And when you have that and you take
Time, space, and money.
Time, space, and money.
Money helps.
Although, yes, time, space, and money. Although, in a way, the reason we earn money is
To have time
for
and
time and
space.
space.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's kind of like this instant.
But if you can find a residency that will give you time, space, and money, that's your unicorn making love to a unicorn on a rainbow. I mean, that's fucking
Definitely.
absolutely amazing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so that's been my experience in the last. I've been here for 5 weeks now, and my experience has just been having that opportunity to be in my studio, to walk from my bedroom into a studio space and to think and to sit and to write and to think about what steps I'm making to move forward in my work and to expand my work. Like that is the value of that, the kind of residency I'm doing. So other residencies, I think, and you can probably speak to this, Kevin, as much as it's also about the community and the notion of speaking and being in dialogue with another group of people who are with you. And so then it's not just about your own time and space, but about time and space that becomes amplified by the voices of others that you're in dialogue with. And that, you get that at school. You get that by going to school for sure. I think a residency does something different in that you don't have the same directives. School is still metered around, like has a rhythm that is academic, and so as much as it is about creativity and imagination, it also puts you into the confinements of what that system already suggests is necessary to do. Whereas like a residency is the benefits of the time and space that you paid for to be in school, but without the kind of rigidity of that infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I feel the same way about a lot of it. The one that I can think about that stood out the most to me was when I was in residence at the Bemis Center for Contemporary Arts.
You went to Bemis.
Yeah, Bemis was great.
So envious.
Man, that's the residency. It was 2 months as well. Out in Omaha, Nebraska, though, right? It's beautiful out there because you just in a giant warehouse. It's 10 of you. You guys got these 800 square foot plus studios, and then a giant factory across the street. You could just make wood cuts, do all types of crazy stuff. So I made my wind chimes out there, right? But it's just having that ability in time and space. But it's also important for young artists, I think, to know that like the rug is gonna get pulled out of you once you get done with that residency. This is where the money part comes in.
Yeah.
What I think Rohan's speaking about a certain type of individual who has the money to do it, right?
One thing that I find fascinating too is like you're going to go to something like Bemis. You're going to make these big, beautiful sculptures. How do you transport those? And then how do you store those?
I think that we were kind of keen to like, we can't do that, but I knew this cool, I never met him, but this cool dude who came like the summer, I came in the fall of 2018. So it was just this last year, but this guy who came out of Colombia, he made this giant arc. He built this giant arc there, and he had it broken down into pieces, and he has sent it to a gallery. So it's possible, but he made it like it was like 8 foot tall.
But then you have to have a gallery who's willing to take it. You know, like if you hadn't had that gallery,
Yeah,
be like,
where would it be? It would be in some storage unit somewhere
He'd never get money.
that he had to pay his own money to ship there, and then he had to pay to continue to store it. Like I got this buddy of mine in Prague that he does monumental stone sculptures.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where do you store those when they're not on exhibition? And he said that he's got an entire like field that he owns that he just like puts them out in the field and just like, you know, hires a forklift whenever he needs to take it somewhere. I'm like, you hire a forklift? And like, I'm like he's just
those things are like they boggle your mind a bit, and that can stop.
I do works on paper, and I think that's very cumbersome. I'm like, oh my god, I've got to get a tube for this.
Yeah, I wish.
Right.
Yeah. But you know that what I was getting at though is like to that same degree, like it's awesome when artists can be kind of like magicians like that, because I think people look at it like, dang, you were able to pull that off, and how did you pull that off? I think that's what brings that kind of folklore around you, right? Of like, how did you do that? But in reality, like when I left Bemis Center, I struggled to find work like for a solid 3 months. It was rough. It was like, see, a lot of people would see the magic of like, oh, you went to Bemis and you went to this residency. It's hard to get. They paid me while I was there. I had all this awesome opportunity. But when I came back, I was struggling, and I had to figure that out. And I think that it's good to try to plan them. Like I'm going to be going to this, I got into this residency called Real Time and Space. Great name for what we're talking about. Out in Oakland, California. They do an exchange with France too. But they pay you to go, and it's like a little like workshop space. And I've done lots of different residencies where they all have different little models. And I think in the end, it really should be about the artist planning. How does this fit into like 2 months before and like 6 months out after? It shouldn't just be like, I have this awesome residency opportunity, just go. Like it really should be like you have solid plans around what you're making and what you're doing, and that fits in. And I think ideally the residencies do want that, but it's up to you to really structure your year and years to fit that.
Interesting point. Okay.
Yeah, because you gotta think about like if you're paying rent, then and you go away for 2 months, like then are you subletting your room? Are you subletting your apartment? Or can you afford to pay for your apartment while you're at your residency?
I did that at Bemis.
Right, yeah, because you were paying back in Chicago, right?
Yeah, and it's a wrap. It's not good. If I didn't have a grant, I got a grant.
From school, yeah.
Yep, but if I didn't get that, and I didn't get the huge one, I got like 4K, which is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. But it's like, it's the difference between, okay, that's gotta be my rent. Now I'm still working. Yeah. So yeah, it's little things like that.
Well, I think it's interesting that sort of maybe you could put it as like the post residency withdrawals almost, like almost a little bit of depression that happens after you're done. I mean, does this happen? I mean, I'm sort of asking, not telling.
Man, I mean, for me, yeah, I think I did my first. It's like, but it depends, right, on the type of residency. Like,
Sure.
like Rohan being here, like in Berlin, right? Like when Rohan leaves Berlin to go to London or go back to Chicago, like that would be a very different context to be making. So it could be exciting. It could be a little deflating. It could be a lot of different things, right?
Right.
For me, when I did my first residency at Kala Art Institute in Berkeley, it was a print shop, but you didn't live there. You had to show up, make your prints, and leave, right? When
Not quite so immersive, really.
not immersive. When I was at Acre was this one out in Steuben, Wisconsin. You're out there on this big like farm that's owned by this old Dutch couple, and I believe they're Dutch. So apologies if not. But they
I know the woman is Dutch.
she's Dutch. Okay, you were there, right? Did you go?
I went up there for the curatorial fellowship. Yeah.
Okay, right on. Yeah. It's like a huge giant, like, and so you're there, you're very immersed. It's not even like, you don't even get Wi-Fi up there. Like, you
You in there.
you there. So when you come back, and, it could be euphoric or not, but it's like, it's definitely, I've had the highs and lows of that.
Final question, which I'm sort of excited because neither of you have heard this, yet I believe you will probably have the most interesting insight on it. As part of the podcast, one of my ideas was to create a tangible goal that I'm trying to achieve. Now, this is an arbitrary goal. I made this up for the podcast, so bear with that. I would like to learn how the art world works effectively enough to get a piece of my artwork in the Museum of Modern Art in New York on exhibition. Just one piece. No solo show. I don't want to be in the collection. I want to be on exhibition.
Okay.
That's doable.
What I'm asking for you,
Not even a problem.
That's a really cool
how
goal.
do I do it? Oh, and whatever you tell me to do, I will do, and I will keep everybody involved by being completely transparent about the entire process in the podcast.
Okay, cool. So you're getting advice from every single person who comes on.
Every gallerist, every artist, every curator, everybody, and some of them give me some stupid things, which in all honesty, I'm not going to do.
Okay.
Like one person said, fly a drone in with your artwork into the museum. I mean, that's just dumb. I'm not going to do that. But
Yeah, you get arrested for that.
exactly. Basically, nothing illegal. Like what I'm
Right.
asking for is I want to learn how the art world works.
Yeah.
So working within the system.
To get a piece of your work on exhibition at the Museum of Modern Art in New York.
Yes.
I got a couple of ideas off the right
Yeah.
out the
Damn.
gate.
Already?
Yeah.
You already
Hustler. I'm a hustler. I wanted to come to Berlin how Rohan did. When I didn't, I was just like, I'm going to come another way. And here we are. I think what I would do, this is my thoughts, you got to find a curator who's worked with them in the past. Not someone who's currently there. Because then what's going to happen is they constantly getting put in a space or position where people want to get something from them. I found people be the most generous when it's like, I can point you in the direction of someone else to do labor on your behalf. So it's always important, I think, to think about those people-to-people relationships. Because if you met a curator who used to work there and had that power, but it's like, now I work in Tennessee, but I like you. I think you're interesting, or I think this, and that.
And I still have relations with X, Y, and Z.
Then they could point you in that direction. And I think then what would happen is you could really open up that dialogue. Because they're never going to let you in that gate on something aggressive. It has to be like, oh, hey, you used to work at the moment. I want to ask you to be on my podcast. Because I want to ask you, how can I get this in there? And that's going to be the context of our conversation. And then keep it completely honest with them. But like, I really want to get in here. Could you point me in the direction of somebody that could help me get in there? And they're going to have a direct relationship with that place. If you ask us about how to get a hold of like somebody in the photo department at SAIC or the painting department, we're going to put you in the right hands right away. We're not going to put you in like third party people.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, like, if I came to you and wanted to get in touch with these people in the painting department, you're not in the painting department.
Not anymore.
And this is what you're saying is like, so don't go for the people in the painting department because they currently because they won't answer you or care or whatever, but go for people that either have some tangential relationship or previous relationship directly to the people who are currently in there.
Yeah.
And they will be the sort of helpful gatekeepers to get you in.
Yeah, most power moves are lateral.
I like it. Say that one more time.
Well, no, it's a philosophy of mine. Most power moves are lateral. So it's like, if you're going to move up in the world, I think you shouldn't think about it as trying to get above people or use people. I think the way I think of power moves is lateral because it's like we're going to move on an equal plane and learn from each other, like what you're doing. The reason why I think power moves are lateral is because in the end, it's like when you are really like hungry for opportunity, hungry to take. You ever heard this thing where people say like emotional vampires, right? Oh, I feel drained after I hung out or spoke to this person. Usually it's because it's not a very equal exchange. So I think the most powerful people you meet almost make you feel like it was a gift you were around them, So I don't do it in this like way of just trying to get something out of it, but I look at it like you give, you get. So I try to always think like, and you're humble about when you try to take, because like, hey, I really need it, otherwise I wouldn't ask you for it. So I think if you're trying to get a painting in the MoMA, it's like that's an important landmark for a lot of artists, right? But there's a lot of space that's been in there that's been like taken away from good people. Like I had a good friend. She just showed at the Brooklyn Museum. She went to Yale. But she, while there might be a lot of artists in Yale who was up in there, she's like a LGBT artist, who was making work in a Stonewall exhibition. So it's like super important that she's up in there and not me right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you're going to be like, hey, I want some space in the MoMA right now for my work, that hopefully along the way, you kind of are meeting people and you're not just trying to directly go to the source and say, hey, I deserve this. But that people who could vouch for you along the way would be like, no, this guy, he deserves some of this space.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to aggressively do this. The idea of it is that, as I said, like the intention of the podcast is to learn how the industry of the arts market and system works. So it's basically, I want to learn how it works. So if part of that is learning what you just said and taking that on, that's the learning I get that I can then utilize to achieve this tangible representation of the theoretical success of the podcast kind of an idea. That's all it is. It's not like my personal goal. Like I'm not going like, damn it, I deserve to be in MoMA. Like, no, it's not that.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I deserve to be in the Guggenheim, for fuck's sake.
That better? That's cool.
But it's
Tate Modern.
Wow.
Tate Modern. That.
Okay.
I'm all about the Tate Modern.
I might have to fight tooth and nail for the Tate Modern. What you think?
We all want to get in the Tate Modern, right? I mean, those things are so. Everyone wants. Actually, I don't know. Does everyone want to be in those spaces? That's another really valid question, because I have a question that you kind of pose as a rebuttal to that goal, which I know the point of the goal is again not about your works per se as much as understanding how everything works.
Well, but that leads to the question basically, like, is having a piece in an institution like that the appropriate definition of a success that I should be trying to emulate, or is there some other thing?
And I mean, I think that completely depends on the individual, doesn't it? I mean, everybody, because I was having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I said that same thing about the art market being the third largest market in the world, and so everybody, you don't have to be a starving artist. And she made the point, like, yeah, but also that is very particular to particular mediums as well. The money is present for very particular mediums. As a performance artist, there's not the same money as there is for an artist. That
would be interesting to see that statistics and break it down by discipline.
By discipline. But then also there are lots of people who make art who have no interest in that kind of representation. The point of the making art is is to show to their friends or to show to the people they love or for them to look at themselves, you know. And
I'm a huge fan of outsider arts. I'm like Henry Darger, and there's this guy whose name I can never remember, but he did this piece in Washington D.C. where he was a janitor in the school system, and when he died, they found this thing that they've now defined as art, but it was actually a throne room to the second coming of Jesus Christ that he had created from the trash from the DC school system.
That's crazy.
It is amazing. And I saw this when I was in like 5th grade as a kid, like, on a field trip. It was just like mind-blowing, because on top of that, he wrote not one book, but 5 books in a language that only he and Jesus Christ can read.
If anyone could.
Yeah, the only 2 people that can read the language that this book was written in were he and Jesus Christ, and the second coming of Jesus Christ.
He clearly wrote that in a language that was legible.
In the first book, he said this book is for me and Jesus Christ. The
second coming of Jesus Christ. Like personal meditations, basically. Yeah. He's like, it's like a prayer.
But he made this with no intention of anybody ever seeing it,
right? Because it was
other than him and Jesus Christ, and that's it.
That's heavy, because
it was amazing. And people like NSA has tried to decode these books, like nobody can decode it. No, nobody knows.
Maybe he didn't actually know.
It might just be total gobbledygook. Maybe the guy was.
But then even that is incredible to write that much in total gobbledygook. Do you know what I mean?
Handwritten 5 books, double sided. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah, that's wild.
But anyways,
but
it goes back to the point of like, why do we make the things we make? What's the symbol of validation that we're all seeking? Is it an institutional exhibition? Is it financial stability? You know, going back to your like owning something, building something kind of thing. Like what is the definition of success that we are all trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think Rohan said it though. It's particular to the person.
It is particular, but then I mean, I guess we are also speaking about the art world. Right, I mean, and that's not art, you know, like that's the other thing to kind of like, the art world is not all art.
Which one of those has a capital A, which has a lowercase a?
The lowercase a has to be the outsider art, because they don't care about the alphabet like that. They're not worried about who's capital, who's not. So it's obvious.
But that's not even just outside, because does outsider art mean people that didn't go to school for art, right? It's just people that don't have like an education.
Yeah, outsider art is generally defined as people with no formal training.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a strange classification, because there's a lot of people like that who are very successful,
who are not necessarily classified as outsider artists.
Yeah,
right.
But maybe not.
Reverend Finster, who ended up being very lucrative career later in life. I mean, he ended up doing like album covers for bands and stuff like this.
Right.
There's all kinds of different outsider artists that have been successful. So I mean,
well, Basquiat technically an outsider artist?
Absolutely.
You know, he didn't have any formal training, but no one says Basquiat is an outsider artist.
And that's what I'm getting at. I'm like, come on, you know?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, almost seems like a classification to make the people who got duped feel a little bit better, you know? Like, hey, I spent, you know, and I'm one of the duped people, so anybody who's listening, $100,000 in the hole, and I'm so smart. You know, it's like...
I'm inside.
Well, but you're in Berlin. You know?
Yeah, we're definitely inside. We are.
No, the two of you seem to be much more well connected with the contemporary art market than me, for sure.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I thought about this before. This would probably be a good footnote towards the ending. But one of my most successful friends, I won't put his name out there because he's, you know, he just don't like his name being put out there. But he makes a lot of money off art. I mean, we're talking about he's got big collectors. He's a young dude. He's younger than me. Got big collectors. Made over $30K, something like that, making in art. But when he took a class on how to make it as an artist, he was telling me that he had a professor who told him, like, you just need to get a job as a bartender and make your work on the side. And me and him were chilling, laughing one time, talking about there are people who go to school to be a bartender. Why do we take their job because we want to be an artist? He was like, that don't even make no sense. So right off cuff right there, you see that mentality has led him to be very specific about what he does He makes money off what he does. He doesn't eat, like, he doesn't really do anything else. And so, except make his work. And so I think that there's different levels of connection, you know? He did that from his home, you know what I mean? Working every day on what he does. And I think there's this trend of us trying to be at the door and knock at other people's door and ask them for things and take until again I'm like this big name in the art world. And I think people who get really sharp about how this thing works finds out it's not that simple, and it's not take. It's a lot of give, and then when you get that opportunity, you receive. You know. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. And sticking with it. I mean, that goes back to like, and it's so cliche, and it's like, but it's so real, because if you can stick with it, and I say that with the caveat that there are lots of people who have stuck with it and are still toiling away. So it's not like everybody that sticks with. Well, but also you're gonna get the grants, you're gonna travel.
You already travel.
You're here, so.
That's more connected than a lot of other people.
That's a lot more connected than a lot of people. You managed to get Kevin through having a conversation with the gallery, and I don't mean that to like put you on a pedestal, but I mean like that was
I'm honored to have you here,
connection.
Kevin. Thank you for gracing me with your presence.
Well, I'm an insider artist, so I accept you.
and you have the $100,000 in debt to prove it.
Yeah, real talk, I do.
Well, but that's what you pay to be an insider artist, literally.
These days, yeah, it is.
And that's about getting to the point to have the connections to somebody that might know somebody who used to curate at the MoMA that might end up being someone that likes your work and can get you in that collection. And that's why people pay $100,000 to go to school, because you could easily spend $100,000 instead just on your work, right? I mean, if you're gonna spend that much money, why not just do it on your work? And it's because you could spend that on your work, but nobody sees it
or cares
because you don't have those connections, which is it's messed up in some way. It's deeply messed up, because it just shows you that there are gates. There are multiple gates for being able to be relevant within the space of that art world with a capital A in quotations.
I couldn't put it any better. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for all of your time and your wisdom and your insights.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us.
You had Kev, and I just came along for the ride.